MP for Ibuakwa North, Joseph Boachidankwa-Edu, stabbed to death.
MPs demand the provision of state security.
And South Africa used to upgrade. Hello, very good evening to you. Many thanks for joining us here on GBC24. The news is also live on GTV. My name is Abdul Hayi Mumin.
I am Shirley Annan. Robert Frimpong Manso will do our sign language for tonight.
In our first story, 5 persons are being held by the police to assist with investigations into the killing on Tuesday of the MP for Ibuakwa North, Joseph Boachidankwa-Edu. The police say Mr. Boachidankwa-Edu was stabbed to death by unknown persons at his East Legon residence.
Unconfirmed reports say the MP was attacked in his bedroom by unknown persons who broke into the house. The reports further say the intruders had access to the house by using a ladder to gain entry. According to the reports, cuts sustained on the late MP's hands and body point to foul play. The police, in its investigation, have picked up 5 people to answer questions relating to the death of the MP. An eyewitness who declined to speak on camera confirmed that the intruders had direct access to the MP's bedroom by using a ladder and struggled with him for a while, overpowered and stabbed him. The late Joseph Boachidankwa-Edu is a professional chartered accountant and a grandson of the late Dr. J.B. Dankwa, the doyen of Ghana politics.
The lawmakers on Tuesday suspended proceedings in honor of their late colleague, Mr. Joseph Boachidankwa, Member of Parliament for Ibuakwa North.
The death of the MP again raises the issue of the need to step up security for MPs.
The mood in the House on Tuesday, 9th February 2016 was mixed, one of sadness on the death of their colleague, Mr. Joseph Boachidankwa, MP for Ibuakwa North, and that of anger at the fact that the country's lawmakers do not have state protection. The late MP entered Parliament on the ticket of NPP in January 2005. He was born on July 2, 1965. He is survived by a wife and 2 children. In 2010, he was Deputy Minister for Women and Children's Affairs under the erstwhile Kufuor administration and won the Ibuakwa North seat in the Eastern region in the December 2012 elections after defeating the National Democratic Congress's Victor Smith. He was part of a 19-member Special Budget Committee chaired by the Majority Leader. The committee considers the budget of Parliament and other constitutionally independent bodies. He is a past chairman and currently a member of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade and Industry. The Minority Leader, Mr. Oseiche Mensah Bonso, told the House that at about 4:30 a.m. on Tuesday, he began receiving calls asking for confirmation or otherwise on their colleague's death by unknown assailants and requested the House to adjourn in order to sympathize with the family.
The Honorable J.B. Dankwa, who only last week Thursday paid glowing tribute in memory of Dr. J.B. Dankwa in this House, has had his life cut short by somebody. Whatever the motive is, we cannot tell now.
The Majority Chief Whip, Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak, said he received the news with shock.
We all know definitely one day we'll die. But Mr. Speaker, the most shocking is the circumstances of this death.
The Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Doe Ajaho, said he was briefed on the MP's death by the National Security Advisor.
I received a call from the Greater Accra Regional Police Commander, brief us about steps that they are taking in order to get to the bottom of the matter, and ask that since he was a member of this house, he will keep the leadership of the house updated on developments.
A minute's silence was observed in memory of the late MP. The House was adjourned to Wednesday, 10th February. The House, led by the Speaker, later visited the residence of the late MP to sympathize with the family. They were received by the spokesperson for the family, Mr. George Amwa, who briefed them on the circumstances of the late MP's death as they know it, and appealed to the leadership of the House to enhance security for members of the House.
This should be a wake-up call to parliamentarians, and I should ensure that from now, every MP should be well protected. Today it is somebody, it may be another person tomorrow. That is not what we want in this country.
The country's lawmakers are demanding the provision of state security. They explain that the detachment of armed police or military personnel will greatly improve on their work.
The call follows the alleged murder of the MP or Member of Parliament for Ibuakwa North, Mr. Joseph Dankwa.
JB, as we usually call him, is a very pleasant and affable person. And that's one thing everybody will say about him. Very easygoing, smiles at everybody. It's a shame, but from the way I see it, I'm sure if there had been an armed police guard there, the people would not even have ventured. And it appears as if they didn't go there with intent to rob. No, I mean, I'm sure the police will conduct a thorough investigation and apprehend those responsible.
He serves in my committee, and when we go to committee meetings, I tell you, he's in depth on trade issues. Is enormous. If the information I'm getting is the fact that the person who stabbed him to death didn't take anything, then it means differently. Either a contract killing or whatever. I suspect contract killing. Judges of our court are protected. Districts, municipal and metro chief executives, they are protected. Ministers of state, they are protected. Our leaders in parliament here, those on the front bench, they all have police, including my speaker. Why are we not ordinary members? Are we not human beings? It is very important that the president, who was once a member of this house, take this matter very seriously. If we're going to have police, there are soldiers there. They can ask the soldiers to come and guide us.
I think it's shocking because Honorable GTV Dankwa was not sick. Nobody expected that such a thing is going to happen.
He's not someone who likes talking about politics too much. Anytime you raise an issue on the floor, he'll just turn around and say, should it always be MPP, NDC? Can it be Ghana for once? He was such a nice person, likable, very affable. This is not the first time a member of parliament has been attacked at home. Honorable Safu Minister was attacked at home. Honorable Gifty Clenham was attacked at home. Honorable Benito was attacked at home. Our colleagues on the other side have also had their fair share. Honorable Neil Vanderpoel was just sharing his experience when he was even attacked in traffic. So if ministers of state have security, if deputy ministers have security, if MMDAs have security, what is the cost implication in providing security for members of parliament as a whole?
Lovely brother. JB, when I heard of the news this morning, in fact, I got frightened, and in fact, I have never even recovered from whatever shock that I had. All I want to say is that this should be a lesson to all of us. The state will do its best to protect us on our streets, in our communities and all that. But in our homes, we should also be up and doing.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the New Patriotic Party has directed all party flags at its various offices across the country to fly at half-mast in honor of the late Member of Parliament for Ibuakwa North, Mr. J.B. Edu, and its acting Western Regional Chairman, Mr. Ben Kwao. The late J.B. was allegedly stabbed to death by an unknown person at his residence, while the late Ben Kwao died on Monday after a short illness.
The leadership has also appealed to the rank and file of the party and the general public to support the police in its investigations into the killing of the late MP.
The sudden death of the Member of Parliament for Ibuakwa North, Mr. J.B. Edu, has again raised concern about safety and heightened fear among the public. On Tuesday morning, the membership of the New Patriotic Party, which was already mourning the passing of its acting Western Regional Chairman, Mr. Ben Kwao, received with shock the news of the death of its MP for Ibuakwa North, Mr. J.B. The acting chairman of the party, Mr. Freddie Blay, while expressing the condolences of the party to the family of the departed ones, appealed to the party members to remain calm, steadfast, and mourn the loss of the departed souls.
I mean, he did not commit suicide. He's been stabbed to death. The ladder that you saw was to his bedroom. That's what the police have said, and that he was profusely bleeding. Somebody killed him. And people in the house have come to confirm that, yes, they suspected somebody was upstairs. The person managed to jump to the other adjoining houses and went away. That's why they suspect. They haven't said it's been conclusive. Suspects of foul play.
He hoped that the police will be able to swiftly investigate the incidents to its logical conclusion and bring the perpetrators of such heinous crimes to book.
There had been influx of arms and ammunition from various places and so forth. And as I mentioned, a tall list of people who have been killed, and there's some very mysterious circumstances. In some cases, it doesn't, of course, the robbery in this country, but in this particular instance, in these particular instances, people have been killed. Nothing has been stolen from them. And it looks like some kind of mysterious murders. We don't want to say it political, but definitely there's a feeling of insecurity, more so when we are just about to go into an election.
Mr. Freddie Blay also appealed to all party faithful and the general public to provide the police with any details to help in the investigations. Party flags at all party offices across the country are expected to fly at half-mast in memory of the departed members.
The nature of violence has changed significantly in the country in the last decade. The country's security agencies are now battling sophisticated crime, armed robbery, and politically induced violence. In an election year, intense exchanges and fierce debates, sometimes bordering on verbal violence, disturbs the political environment. The death of the MP for Ibuakwa North has brought to the fore the need to maintain peace and security before, during, and after the 2016 general election. On the line tonight is the chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante. Good evening, sir. Many thanks for joining us on the phone tonight.
Good evening.
Professor, first of all, are you worried about the security situation in the country, given the fact that recently some assault weapons were arrested in Kumasi, and again, given the fact that ammunitions at the Flower border were seized when people were trying to transport them into the country?
Definitely. I mean, anybody who is very much concerned about the peace of the country must be worried about these foreboding signs. You know, a cache of arms that were found in Kumasi and what happened at Aflao, and all sorts of, violent situations, pockets of violent situations that we find here and there. It's a worry to every individual. But that doesn't mean that we need to throw up our arms in the air and say that because of this situation, there is nothing that we can do. I believe that we can do something about it. We can really rise up to the occasion and say no to violence and embrace peace and try to do things that will facilitate peace rather than violence.
But merely saying that we embrace peace, I mean, just merely saying it does not bring peace in itself. What are some of the things that can be done concretely, tangible things that can be done to ensure that we have this peace that you're talking about?
The first thing that I believe everybody in Ghana must understand is it's the practice of democracy calls for tolerance. It simply means that all of us cannot agree on an issue. There must be some form of unity which finds expression in diversity of ideas. Democracy for me is the competition of ideas in terms of how better the nation can be governed. And we must be tolerant and allow, opposing views, people who are not in our particular party or do not share our political ideologies, also to propound theirs, so that, the citizenry will listen and decide on the best approach. That's one. Tolerance is very, very crucial. And that will, the flowing from this will mean that we have to conduct the politics of civility rather than politics of insult. The kinds of things that we always, hear in the radios and airwaves where people get the opportunity to insult one another and not talk about issues is something that we should completely discourage. And I think every individual citizen has a role to play in this matter. The media has a role to play. Individuals who are also making phone calls and all that have roles to play. And even the people who use the social media should also be circumspect in the kinds of things we churn out there. Under the anonymity of social media, we do all sorts of violence to people, and that can degenerate into all sorts of things. I would wish that our politics would be politics of civility that is based on issues rather than insults.
Right. Reverend Professor, again, the death of the late MP for Ivoire North, Honorable JB has brought to the fore the issue of security for MPs. How essential is it for the state to provide MPs with security men?
I believe that men in public, public figures like parliamentarians, definitely need some kind of protection. But it is very, very sad that we have come to this, in the country, because a lawmaker shouldn't be somebody who should be a threat to anybody to the extent that somebody would want to do a lot of harm to them. I'm really saddened by the event, what has happened to JB, because I happen to know him. He happens to be, a friend. Anytime you meet him somewhere and you engage in a discussion, he's not that type of wild partisan person. So, for somebody to have had an ulterior motive to do such a thing, it's a worry. But I think it is very, very important that we think about the security of people in high-profile positions, our parliamentarians, people in such positions. We need to do something about it, protect them. But apart from protecting these people, the question of justice must also be very, very important. You have a lot of young people roaming around and no jobs for them, and all sorts of things do happen, where people have no jobs and people are so frustrated. Anything, somebody wanting to engage them to do evil, they will easily give in to such things. So I think the government has something to do. All of us as citizens, we also have something to do. The security have something to do about this. Ghanaians, we should be lovers of peace, lovers of our country, and stop these kinds of things that could really lead us into mayhem.
Professor Reverend, already the year has started and we've had reports of violence, reports of killings, just like we've had today. What is your outfit doing that ahead of the 2016 elections we do not hear too much of such violent acts and such killings?
You mean what? If you can come again?
I'm just asking what steps your organization, which is the Peace Council, what steps are you taking to ensure that as we head towards election 2016, that such incidents of violence and killings are reduced?
The responsibility of the National Peace Council is to facilitate, peaceful conditions in the country. And that's precisely what the National Peace Council seeks to do. We started way back, last year, having stakeholders meetings. We have met with the press trying to evaluate 2012. What did we do well, and which are the areas that we need to, look into as we enter into 2016. We have met with the political parties. We've met with the security people. Today, National Peace Council met. We've outlined programs that will lead us to engage all sorts of stakeholders, to engage people in dialogue, and also to encourage young people to embrace peace and also to promote peace. These are all sort of the things that we are trying to do. Already in the regions, our various, organizations, the peace councils in the regions are engaging the press, they are engaging stakeholders groups and trying to promote peace.
All right. Professor Reverend, thank you very much. That's all time will allow us. We have been speaking to the chairman of the National Peace Council, Professor Reverend Emmanuel Asante, and he has been telling us about what the Peace Council is doing to ensure that there's peace ahead of the 2016 election. And moving on, the Inspector General of Police, John Kudalo, says the police will collaborate with Ambassador Extraordinaire of the Prisons, Ibrahim Kwatin, on his initiative to sensitize the public on the consequences of crime through prison documentaries. He said the initiative will greatly complement the efforts of the police in the fight against crime in the country. The visit by the Prison's Ambassador Extraordinaire was to seek the support of the police in the rollout of the National Stop Crime campaign next month. It was also aimed at projecting to the IGP the deplorable conditions in the country's prisons and the need for the police to get involved in sensitizing the public on the danger of crime. Mr. Kudalo was happy with the initiative being championed by the prison's ambassador under the auspices of his newly formed NGO, Crime Check Foundation. He said the police will partner the ambassador through the community policing unit in the rollout of the National Stop Crime campaign.
We shall partner you. Your vision is quite pertinent and true, and it's the only one of the many ways we can fight and reduce crime. We will not be to zero, but we can use it adequately if we are able to partner well.
Mr. Kwatin later paid another courtesy call on the Executive Secretary of the Narcotics Control Board, Mr. Yao Akwesisapon, on how to partner the board to sensitize the public on the danger of drugs.
In every country, those who are close to the establishment are in a comfort zone. And you must be very careful that you are taking an approach which is not. Crime doesn't want comfort zones. For you in particular, this crime thing, face it. And if anybody responds, challenge the status quo and the way you think. We wish you well. We will come for your launch. And in a year's time, we can look back and say, thanks be to God.
The Ambassador Extraordinaire will be carrying his campaign to schools, churches, mosques, and some communities across the country.
You're still watching News Hour on GBC24. The Executive Director of the United States Telecommunication Training Institute, Mr. James O'Connor, has called on the management of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation to discuss issues of mutual concern.
Telecommunication Training Institute is an institution that trains individuals in best practices and telecommunication regulation. Ultimately, the course is to help participants to use the knowledge they have acquired to improve the lot of their place of work. Hosting the executive director of the institution, the deputy director general of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Mrs. Francisca Shito Duntun, said collaboration has impacted positively on the operations of GBC and called for the deepening of the relationship.
Lots more people from GBC can benefit from the wide range of programs as we move into the digital age.
The Director of Technical Production of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Mr. Oscar Incho, who is also an alumni of the school, was grateful to USTTI. The Executive Director of USTTI, Mr. James O'Connor, said there are a lot of courses available and is looking forward to see more staff from GBC applying to participate in the course.
Through our training and making more opportunities available, your experience can even serve as a role model for other organizations.
USTTI is in the country to meet with industry players to find ways to address cybersecurity as well as who goes online.
You're watching News Hour on GBC24 and GTV. We have business coming up after the break. Please stay with us.
And as for the business segment, I am Dorothy Ajimai. The finance minister, Seth Terkper, says the economy is making positive gains, a development which will stimulate economic growth. In Accra on Tuesday, Mr. Terkper mentioned the reduction in the budget deficit from 7% to 5.3%, improvement in the power sector, and the government's ability to sustain the debt levels, which stands at 70% of GDP, as the key forces responsible for the turnaround in the economy. But he also added that overspending in an election year and a further drop in commodity prices remain a threat to the turnaround.
In 2011, Ghana's economy was ranked among the elite club of the highest growing economies in the world. It hit a record level of 14%. But after that, the economy took a nosedive, with 2014 growth rate plunging to 4.5%. The fall in commodity prices on the world market, depreciation of the Ghana cedi, high budget deficit, and rising debt levels were the main drivers behind the macroeconomic imbalance. However, according to the Finance Minister Seth Terkper, the rolling out of fiscal consolidation measures via the IMF bailout program is yielding positive results.
A very important development is the primary balance. The primary balance is your revenue less, expenditure, but excluding interest payments from the expenditure, and that was very high at 8.2. At the end of 2015, that is going to go down to 0.2. It is important that your primary balance is positive. If it's positive, it means that you are able to borrow and pay, interest and debt service commitments.
Mr. Terkper said he expects the country's GDP growth to close 2015 at around 4%.
We expect that the 4 or 4.1 tentative, which is where we expect to be, may be the bottom, because we are going to see GDP increase.
On the new levies introduced into the energy sector of the country, Mr. Terkper said the levies were brought in to help clear the debt in that sector.
The levies are not all going to go into the consolidated fund. And an element of the energy levy is going to be ring-fenced to pay for a facility to clean the balance sheet of our SOEs in order that they can perform this role. So what is happening now is that because of the long period of the power crisis, we've had VRA in particular and others being exposed significantly to the banks.
On the current level of the country's public debt, Mr. Terkper said it currently stands at 70% of GDP. He however pointed at over-expenditure during election years as some of the threat to the success chalked so far.
We are doing a turnaround, but we don't have to be complacent. It's very, very important, because there are still some risks, which we have to manage. We have to face up to them and manage them. election year cycle is very important. Global commodity prices continue to be weak, China in particular, so that also poses a risk. And as you know, another element is the crude oil price. Last year, we moved to revise the budget, and this year, the crude oil prices continue to fall. So there's a real possibility, that we would have to revise the budget.
On the outlook, Mr. Tekpe is upbeat that with the commitment to follow through the IMF program, coupled with improvement in the price levels of cocoa on the international market, the balance of payment of the country will be steadied by the close of the year.
Later this month, Tamale in the northern region will host the first ever Ghana International Trade Fair outside Accra. Vice President Kwesi Amissah-Arthur is calling on both foreign and local businesses to take advantage of the fair to explore business opportunities in the north and the entire country for maximum returns. Speaking at the Ghana-France Business Forum in Accra, Mr. Amissah-Arthur described Ghana as Africa's most preferred business destination.
Since Ghana chose the path of democracy, it has maintained a liberal market-based economy, an independent judiciary, strong and vibrant media, an educated workforce, and an ever-growing infrastructure. All of these pertain in a politically secure and stable environment, making Ghana a gateway to a region of about 300 million people. The French have invested phenomenally in the local economy in the past 15 years, with trade balance in favor of Ghana. But bilateral trade has dipped from $1.3 billion in 2013 to a paltry $650 million in 2015. It was to reverse the situation and stimulate trade between Ghana and France that President John Mahama visited Bordeaux last October, which has resulted in a follow-up by the French businesses to prospect for opportunities.
We have reached a stage of our development where there are now opportunities not only in our capital city, but also in our regions, not only for the large multinationals, but for the small and medium-sized enterprises too.
I have every confidence that the French delegation will find in their Ghanaian counterparts during today's business-to-business meetings outstanding potential partners with all the right credentials to take their institutional interest in Ghana to the next level.
France believes in Ghanaian economy, its capacity to deal with present economic challenges and also perspectives that this economy holds for the future.
Vice President Kwesi Amissah-Arthur is hopeful that a favorable investment climate and abundant natural resources are a compelling reason to invest here.
I believe that French business people who are gathered here will continue to maintain an interest in Ghana because, as you, Mr. Ambassador, have maintained, our country has a reputation as a great performer in the African economy. We are very broad-minded, open-minded, tolerant of different views, and this has created a remarkable atmosphere of peace and stability and security for people who live here. We treasure our political and social stability and the freedom which has created that allow people to express their views freely.
The French delegation cut across academia, businesses, and municipal authorities who seek to partner Ghanaian counterparts to up trade volumes again. GBC24.
You're watching the business segment of the news. Moving on, business confidence as measured by the AGI Business Barometer dropped from 42 points in the third quarter of 2015 to 22.42 points in the last quarter of that year. The survey points to erratic power supply, high cost of credit, and lack of access to credit as some of the factors that influence the drop. The AGI Business Barometer collates the concerns of business operators all over the country in a given quarter.
Generally speaking, confidence level for 2015 Q4 has actually declined, and that should be of concern to us. Regional analysis were performed to give further details, and then we believe that by doing so, it's enhancing the value of the business barometer survey. Employment level within the quarter increased marginally, and I explained that this is largely due to the Christmas season effects. Export volumes in 2015 also improved compared to the year before. And the three top challenges that faced industry as far as the last quarter is concerned is high cost of electricity, inadequate power supply, and then the currency instability. And I mentioned earlier that it appears larger firms are more resilient to harsh economic conditions and the smaller firms, and the study shows.
On the second day of trading for the week, the cedi was resilient against the pound sterling by gaining 4 pesos to trade at 5 cedis 56 pesos. The local currency also inched up by peso to the euro to close trading at 4 cedis 30 pesos. It, however, maintained its value against the dollar to sell at 3 cedis 86 pesos. Ghana's foreign exchange earner cocoa lost $16 to close the day's trading at $2,842 per ton. Gold also followed suit by shutting off $7.60, while crude oil appreciated by 87 cents to sell at $30.56. Up next is the board. This segment was brought to you by Airtel, SIC and Ernest Chemist. We have more news ahead. Please do stay.
Now for some health news. In spite of global efforts in propagating child health, an estimated 1.5 million children still die of preventable diseases. For this reason, the Organization of Africa First Ladies Against HIV and AIDS has expressed its desire to partner donor organizations to get every child immunized. The president for the UAFLA, Mrs. Lordina Mahama, made the appeal at a meeting of African First Ladies in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mahama will play host to the UNDP Executive Director, Dr. Babadu Tunde Oshoti Mehin, and some African First Ladies at the 7th African Conference on Sexual Health and Rights to be held in Accra on Wednesday.
The best bet to a child's survival is the access to life-saving vaccines. In Ghana, immunization coverage is at 90%. The past 13 years, for instance, has seen no child die from measles, and polio is soon to be totally eradicated. Maternal and neonatal tetanus have also been eradicated since 2011. However, a significant number of those in the rural areas will have to be reached under the expanded program on immunization. The Organization of African First Ladies Against HIV/AIDS, aside from championing HIV/AIDS issues and empowering women, has also mandated itself to end maternal and neonatal deaths. At a meeting in Addis Ababa, its chairperson, Mrs. Lordina Mahama, called on donors to partner the organization to enable it to bridge the deficits in child health.
Regardless of where they are born, who they are, where they live, children must survive. We cannot relent on our effort. In this regard, the First Ladies of Africa and OFLA members in particular are excited about this opportunity to strengthen ties with Gavi in our country.
Having had a long-standing relations with the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations, now referred to as Gavi Vaccine Alliance, Ghana will this year introduce 2 new vaccines to curb meningitis and polio. OAFLA hopes that this relationship will deepen its impact on the continent.
Gavi's partnership with Africa is old, is strong and vibrant. Together, we have been able to globally additionally immunize 500 million children since the inception of Gavi. Nearly 250 million children have been additionally immunized with your leadership and with Gavi's support in Africa alone. And this has resulted in averting 4.5 million children deaths. So we tremendously appreciate and value our partnership with Africa, your leadership, and in particular, the leadership that the First Ladies are demonstrating.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Lodina Mahama has called on the World Health Organization and international bodies to expedite action on the Zika virus outbreak in North and South Americas before it spreads to other parts of the world. She said already the virus has affected thousands of pregnant women and newborn babies and continues to affect more women on a daily basis.
Bringing the international news after this break.
South Africa's President Jacob Zuma has made a U-turn in court over his refusal to repay some of the $23 million of state money used to upgrade his home. His lawyer admitted he was wrong to ignore an anti-corruption watchdog's report to pay back money spent on features such as swimming pool. The opposition bought the case, hoping it will open the way for impeachment proceedings against the president. Thousands of people protested outside court, shouting, "Zuma must fall." Police put up a strong show of force as the protesters, led by Julius Malema's left-wing economic freedom fighters, marched to the court in the main city, Johannesburg. EFF leader Julius Malema led protesters outside the court. We'll now bring you some sports news.
Good evening and updates from the world of sports. This is in partnership with Hijapias, Tornado Bites and Lunat. The Ghana Weightlifting Federation has held its annual congress in Accra. Delegates adopted amendments made to the constitution with effect, which has also diffused the power and authority of the board, the president, and the team. Weightlifting in Ghana started in 1997. Since then, the federation has undergone several reforms. This year, as part of its growth, expansion and good governance practice, the current executives have reviewed the current constitution. Now, ownership and power lies in the hands of the various clubs, regional associations and other stakeholders as against the old order, which gives a lot of power and authority to the board and the few national team weightlifters and the president. At its annual congress held in Accra, delegates approved the amended constitution, which is seen as a step to allow for the growth and expansion plans for the Ghana Weightlifting Federation. Also, delegates accepted activities and budgets outlined in the calendar. Athletes that represented Ghana during the World Championship were presented with their certificates. The president of the Ghana Weightlifting Federation, Mr. Benunu Mensah, tells us more.
We realized that the old constitution limited the growth of our game. It didn't give any legal backing to weightlifting clubs that we now have. It didn't also give legal backing to the Coaches Association, the Old Lifters Association, and even the educational institutions and security services who are doing weightlifting. So the new constitution makes sure that these organizations get legal backing. One other thing also, it also limits the power of the board and then the national team holders, and rather puts power in the hands of the weightlifting clubs.
Next on the calendar for the federation is preparations for the first National Youth and Junior Championship set for Accra in March of this year. To athletics, Sprint sensation at the Ghana International School, Kwabena Kwakwa has set another school record in the 400-meter event. He ran 0.5 seconds to break the old record of 1 minute 0.3 seconds. The Elwak Sports Stadium once again hosted a track and field competition for the senior secondary section of the Ghana International School. Some disciplines included 100 meters for boys and girls, 400 meters, 200 meters, and 4x100 meter relays. Athletes from the junior, intermediate, and senior levels exhibited their prowess. Some athletes shared their experience.
I set a record for 1,500 meters. I got 5 minutes and 13 seconds. And I also set a record for 400 meters where I got 59.03 seconds. I'm really happy about these, even though someone else broke my old record for 400 meters, but it's really fun.
The principal of GIS, Dr. Mary Eshen, and the athletics director of GIS, Mrs. Zainab Akutu, said the enthusiasm shown was commendable.
Here we're trying to teach kids that, you know what, focus on your books, but the other things to make the whole human being. And so how to juggle that is very, very critical.
We are looking forward to group them and prepare them towards International School Sports Association of Ghana, ISAC, which will be coming on very soon in October.
President of the Ghana Rugby Football Union, Mr. Herbert Mensah, said the best way to develop sports is to add education to it.
Sports brings about a discipline. You know, to excel in anything, you have to have a discipline. Today we've seen fantastic young kids running and excelling, and you'll see that the technique behind just the running is something else. So it's a discipline, and I think it starts from a young age and it becomes part of your culture, your psyche, and it takes you into life.
Officials say the next edition will be bigger and better. That's sports.
Hello, good evening. Time for Smart News. My name is. He left for the United States at the age of 13 with a dream to become a football star. He was determined not to let his journey from Bekwai to the Big Apple be a fruitless journey. If there is any Ghanaian using art to attract global attention to Ghana's culture and tourism in a revolutionary way, that must be New York-based Ghanaian artist Dennis Owusu answer. Miriam Makeba, born 4th March 1932 and nicknamed Mama Africa, was a South African singer and civil rights activist. In the 1960s, she was the first artist from Africa to popularize African music around the world. Our Black History series Spotlight is on Miriam Makeba. That's it for this segment.